My parents cast me aside when I became pregnant, and 6 years later, they resurfaced, demanding to be grandparents, pushing boundaries to extreme lengths. Growing up, my home was a rigid environment. My parents dictated every aspect of my life, from my clothing choices to my social circle, and even my reading material. My father was the stricter of the two, but they both ensured their wishes were always met. I was always the quiet student, rarely speaking up and largely keeping to myself. The only rule I ever dared to bend was secretly reading novels my parents deemed inappropriate, books that were perfectly normal for my peers. This was the sole act of rebellion until I turned 19. I met Nathan at 18 during my first semester of college. He was a second-year business student, and we started dating after a campus event. My parents weren't thrilled about me dating, but they reluctantly accepted it as long as my grades remained high and I adhered to their other rules. Our relationship quickly grew serious, as Nathan was the first person who genuinely listened to me. 6 months into our relationship, I missed my period. Despite using protection most of the time, we had a few slip-ups. When the pregnancy test came back positive, I sat on the bathroom floor for what felt like an eternity, consumed by fear. A baby at 19 wasn't in my plans, especially while still living under my parents' roof and entirely dependent on them for college and everything else. I told Nathan first, meeting him at a coffee shop near campus and handing him the pregnancy test wrapped in tissue paper. After a long minute of staring, he asked what I wanted to do. I honestly didn't know. Terminating the pregnancy crossed my mind due to my parents' anticipated reaction, but I couldn't voice it. Nathan promised to support whatever I decided. Then, he did something unexpected. He took my hand and asked me to marry him. It wasn't a romantic proposal, but I knew he meant it. Telling my parents was the most daunting task I'd ever faced. I waited until Sunday dinner, with my older brother Eric present, hoping more people would temper their reaction. I was wrong. When I announced my pregnancy, my mom's fork clattered loudly onto her plate, and my dad's face turned an alarming shade of red. Eric just stared at me as if I'd committed a crime. I quickly added that Nathan had proposed, and we planned to keep the baby. That's when everything shattered. My dad slammed his hand on the table, rattling the dishes, while my mom started to cry. Eric called me stupid. Then, my dad stood up and delivered his ultimatum. Either I fixed this mistake, or I was no longer welcome in their home. My mom nodded in agreement between sobs. I told them I couldn't terminate the pregnancy. It wasn't something I could do. My dad gave me until morning to reconsider, or I needed to pack my things and leave. That night, I called Nathan in tears. His response was immediate. He and his parents would come to get me the next day. I packed everything I could fit into 2 suitcases and a backpack. The next morning, my parents and Eric were at the breakfast table, ignoring me completely. I announced I was keeping the baby and that Nathan was coming for me. My dad simply pointed to the door. Nathan and his parents arrived an hour later. As I put my bags in their car, I looked back at the house, hoping someone would emerge to say goodbye or acknowledge my departure. No one did. The door remained firmly shut. The first few months were incredibly difficult. I had to drop out of college. Managing classes with morning sickness and the emotional toll of being disowned was too much. Nathan's parents allowed us to stay with them until we could get on our feet. They converted their home office into our bedroom and helped us plan for the baby. Nathan continued his studies while working part-time, and I found a flexible job at a local bookstore that accommodated my pregnancy. Nathan's mother, Diane, took me maternity shopping and accompanied me to appointments when Nathan couldn't. His father, Robert, built a crib and refurbished an old rocking chair from a yard sale. I was profoundly grateful for their support, but every time Diane helped me, I couldn't help but think how my own mother should have been there. My mom's sisters, my aunts Jenny and Kate, reached out after learning what happened. They disagreed with my parents' decision, but couldn't persuade them to change their minds. They sent baby clothes and offered emotional support through calls and occasional visits. Some cousins also stayed in touch, messaging on social media and checking in regularly. Despite all this support, my parents' absence was a constant ache. I sent them a Christmas card with a picture of me and my growing baby bump, but there was no response. I sent an invitation to our small wedding ceremony when I was 6 months pregnant, and it was returned to sender. When Lily was born, I sent birth announcements. Still, nothing. Nathan and I got married at the courthouse with his parents as witnesses when I was 6 months pregnant. It wasn't the wedding I had dreamed of as a little girl, but it was perfect in its own way. Nathan had secured a better job by then, working for his uncle's construction company with good benefits and steady pay. Lily was born when I was still 19. The delivery was long and difficult, and all I wanted was my mom. Diane held my hand and coached me through it, but it wasn't the same. When they placed Lily on my chest for the first time, I cried for so many reasons. Joy at meeting my daughter, relief that the delivery was over, and profound sadness that my parents had chosen to miss this moment. After Lily was born, Nathan and I moved into a small 2-bedroom apartment. It wasn't fancy, but it was our first real home as a family. Nathan continued working and going to school part-time. With Diane's help with childcare, I was able to return to college part-time too. For the first 3 years of Lily's life, I kept sending my parents updates, birthday cards, Christmas photos, pictures of Lily's first steps. I never received anything in return. No acknowledgement, no cards for Lily's birthdays, nothing. Eventually, I stopped trying. If they didn't want to be part of our lives, I wouldn't force it. Nathan graduated with his business degree when Lily was 4. He was promoted at work, and we were able to buy a small house in a neighborhood with good schools. I finished my education degree the following year and secured a job teaching 3rd grade at a school near our home. Life settled into a comfortable routine. Lily grew into a bright, curious little girl who loved books as much as I did. She adored Nathan's parents, who showered her with attention and love. We spent holidays with Nathan's family, and my aunts and cousins visited when they could. We were happy until last week. I'm now 4 months pregnant with our second child. We hadn't told many people yet, but I mentioned it to my cousin Emma during a phone call. Apparently, Emma told her mom, who then told my mom. Last Saturday, while Nathan was mowing the lawn and Lily was playing in the backyard, my parents appeared on our doorstep. I almost didn't recognize them. My dad had lost weight and had much more gray in his hair than I remembered. My mom also looked older, with lines around her eyes that weren't there before. They stood awkwardly on the porch, my mom holding a gift bag wrapped in teddy bear paper. I couldn't speak. After 6 years of complete silence, they were suddenly at my door. Nathan must have seen them from the backyard because he quickly came inside, still in his grass-stained clothes, and stood beside me. My mom started crying, and my dad asked if they could come in. I was shaking so badly that Nathan had to guide me to the living room sofa. They sat across from us, and my dad did most of the talking. He confessed they had made a terrible mistake. They were scared when I got pregnant, worried I was throwing my life away. They believed Nathan would eventually leave me, leaving me as a single mother with no education or means of support. My mom nodded along, adding that they thought being strict would force me to make the right decision. They claimed they realized their mistake years ago, but were too proud to reach out. Discovering my second pregnancy made them realize they couldn't stay away any longer. My mom handed me the gift bag. Inside was a handmade baby blanket and a small teddy bear. She said she'd been making blankets for years, imagining giving them to grandchildren she'd never met. She asked if they could meet Lily and be part of our lives again. I couldn't answer. 6 years of hurt and abandonment don't vanish with one apology. They weren't there when I needed them most. They missed Lily's birth, her first words, her first steps, her first day of kindergarten. They missed our struggle to make ends meet, the nights I cried from exhaustion, the milestones we celebrated. Now they wanted to waltz back in as if nothing had happened. Nathan told them I needed time to think. They reluctantly left their phone number and address, mentioning they'd moved to a smaller house across town and would await my call. As they left, my mom asked for a hug. I allowed it, but I felt nothing as her arms went around me. She was a stranger. After they left, Nathan held me as I sobbed. Lily, confused by the commotion, asked who the people were. We told her they were old friends, not yet ready to explain the complicated truth. I've spent the last week in a fog. Nathan says he'll support whatever decision I make, but admits he's angry about how they treated me. His parents are concerned that letting my parents back in will only lead to more pain. My aunts believe I should forgive them and give them another chance, asserting that people can change. I don't know what to do. Part of me wants Lily and the new baby to know their other grandparents. Another part cannot forget being thrown away like garbage when I needed them most. What if they disapprove of something else and disappear again? What if they treat Lily differently from the new baby since they weren't there for her birth? Am I wrong for being hesitant? Should I forgive them and allow them back into our lives, or should I protect my family from people who abandoned me once already? Update 1. I want to thank everyone who commented on my original post. I read every single comment, and they gave me a lot to consider. Many of you shared similar experiences, which helped me feel less alone in this situation. After much thought and many discussions with Nathan, I decided to meet with my parents again, but with clear boundaries. I called them and arranged to meet at a cafe near our house. I specifically asked them not to bring gifts and clarified that this would be a conversation between adults only. Nathan offered to come with me, but I felt I needed to do this alone. My parents arrived at the cafe before me, choosing a quiet corner table away from others. My mom stood up to hug me when I approached, but I gestured for her to sit down. I didn't want physical affection to cloud my judgment. The first 15 minutes were awkward. They asked about Lily, my pregnancy, and my job. I answered briefly, not volunteering much information. Then, I told them my decision. If they wanted to be part of our lives, we needed to establish a relationship between just us adults first. No meeting Lily yet, no baby shower invitations, no grandparent role until I knew I could trust them again. My dad's face immediately changed. His friendly expression hardened into something more familiar, the disapproving look I grew up with. He argued that they had apologized, and that should be enough. They were Lily's grandparents and had a right to see her. My mom reached across the table for my hand, saying they'd already missed so much of Lily's life. I pulled my hand back and reminded them that they were the ones who chose to miss those years. Their rights as grandparents were forfeited the day they kicked me out. I told them we could start with monthly dinners, just the adults, and see how it goes from there. My dad stood up so suddenly his chair scraped loudly against the floor, drawing glances from several people. He declared he wouldn't beg to see his own grandchild. My mom tried to calm him down, but he was already too angry. He accused me of punishing them and being vindictive. When I remained calm and didn't change my position, they both left. My mom looked back once with tears in her eyes, but she followed my dad out of the cafe. I sat there for nearly an hour afterward, drinking cold coffee and processing what had happened. Their reaction told me everything I needed to know. They hadn't changed. They still expected immediate compliance with their wishes, and anything less was unacceptable to them. When I got home, Nathan was waiting anxiously. Lily was at his parents' house for the afternoon, so we had privacy to talk. I told him what happened, and he held me as I processed it all. He didn't say, "I told you so," just listened and supported me. I thought that was the end of it, but 3 days later, my brother Eric showed up at our door. Eric and I hadn't spoken since the day I left our parents' house. He was always their favorite, following their rules without question and adopting their opinions as his own. He looked different now, more polished in his business suit, but with the same judgmental eyes. Nathan was at work, and Lily was at school. Eric invited himself in before I could stop him. He sat on our couch uninvited and looked around our home with obvious disapproval, despite our efforts to make it nice with our limited budget. Eric said he had come to talk sense into me. Our parents were devastated after our cafe meeting, and I needed to be more understanding. He claimed they made one mistake years ago, and I was being unreasonable by not immediately welcoming them back. He reminded me of all they'd done for me growing up, the home they provided, the clothes they bought, the education they paid for, conveniently forgetting they cut that off. When I pointed out that they abandoned me when I was barely an adult and pregnant, he had the audacity to say I'd abandoned them first by getting myself pregnant and choosing that guy over my family. I told him Nathan had a name, and he was my husband and Lily's father. Eric rolled his eyes and said Nathan had trapped me, and our parents had only been trying to save me from ruining my life. That's when I realized Eric didn't just share our parents' opinions, he had helped form them. He had always disliked Nathan, even before the pregnancy. The few times they'd met, Eric had been coldly polite at best. Now, I wondered how much he'd influenced our parents' reaction to my pregnancy. I asked Eric to leave. He refused, saying he wouldn't go until I agreed to bring Lily to meet our parents that weekend. When I again refused, he grabbed my wrist, his grip tight enough to hurt, and said I was being childish. I pulled away and told him if he didn't leave immediately, I would call the police. He looked surprised, as if he couldn't believe I would stand up to him. After a tense moment, he left, slamming the door so hard a picture fell off the wall. I called Nathan immediately. He wanted to leave work and come home, but I assured him I was okay. I also called his mom, who came over to stay with me until Nathan got home, bringing dinner with her. That night, after we put Lily to bed, Nathan and I had a long talk. We decided to be proactive rather than reactive. I texted my parents, clearly stating that after Eric's behavior, I was even more convinced that slow, adult-only contact was the only way forward. I told them Eric was not welcome in our home again, and if they couldn't respect my boundaries, they wouldn't be welcome either. My mom texted back almost immediately, defending Eric. She said he was just emotional about family matters and meant no harm. She again pushed for a meeting with Lily present, saying family healing needed to include everyone. I didn't respond. Their inability to respect even this simple boundary confirmed my decision to keep my distance. Nathan suggested changing our phone numbers, but I wasn't ready for that step yet. Part of me still hoped they might eventually understand and respect my terms. The next day, flowers arrived at my school with a card from my parents apologizing for Eric's behavior. The card also included a note saying they had bought tickets to Lily's school play next month, information they must have gotten from my cousin or aunt. I returned the flowers to the florist with a note declining delivery. I called my Aunt Jenny that evening to express my disappointment that someone had shared information about Lily's activities with my parents. She admitted she'd been in regular contact with them over the years and thought she was helping by telling them about the play. I told her I needed her to respect my decisions about my parents' involvement in our lives. She agreed, though I'm not entirely convinced she meant it. For now, I'm focusing on what's important: Nathan, Lily, our coming baby, and our daily life. My parents and Eric have shown me they haven't changed, still expecting compliance rather than earning trust. I'm keeping my distance while processing all that's happened. Nathan's parents continue to be supportive, which reminds me what real family support looks like. I'll update again if anything significant changes. Update 2. I had hoped my last update would be the end of the situation, but it seems my parents and brother can't take no for an answer. The past month has been a series of escalating attempts to force their way into our lives. A week after Eric's unwelcome visit, packages started arriving for Lily. Dolls, books, art supplies, all addressed to her with cards signed from Grandma and Grandpa. I returned everything unopened. Then came the emails with old family photos attached, texts with "Remember When" stories, and voicemails full of guilt and manipulation. The final straw came 2 weeks ago. I was picking Lily up from school when I spotted my mom in the parking lot, watching from her car. I immediately reported it to the school office, and they assured me they would not release Lily to anyone but Nathan or me. I didn't confront my mom. I just quickly got Lily into our car and left. That night, I called my parents and told them in no uncertain terms that their behavior was becoming harassment. My dad dismissed my concerns, saying they just wanted to see their grandchild. Last weekend was Lily's school play. Remember I mentioned they had somehow gotten tickets? Nathan and I arrived early to speak with Lily's teacher and the principal. We explained the situation and asked that they not be allowed in. The school was understanding and had a staff member watch the entrance. My parents showed up as expected. When they were politely turned away, they created a scene. My dad demanded to be let in, claiming he had tickets. The principal had to threaten to call security before they finally left. Lily, thankfully, was backstage and unaware of the commotion, but other parents witnessed it. I was mortified. The next day, Eric showed up at Nathan's workplace. Nathan's co-workers, who knew our situation, alerted him before Eric could find him. Nathan met him in the lobby, where Eric handed him an envelope. Inside was a check for a substantial amount of money, supposedly a gift for Lily's education. There was also a note saying, "My parents would drop their campaign to see Lily if we agreed to family counseling sessions with them." Nathan tore up the check and note in front of Eric and told him to leave. That evening, we received a group text from my mom to our entire extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, even Nathan's parents. It contained a long, dramatically skewed version of events, painting Nathan and me as cruel for keeping Lily from her loving grandparents. She claimed we were denying Lily her heritage and family connections over a misunderstanding that happened years ago. The message ended with a plea for family members to help bring us to our senses. Most relatives didn't respond to the group text. My Aunt Jenny called me privately to apologize for my mom's behavior. She said she tried to discourage my parents from their increasingly desperate tactics, but they wouldn't listen. Nathan's parents blocked my parents' numbers immediately and assured us of their continued support. 2 days later, I was grocery shopping when I ran into my mom's best friend from church. She approached me with sympathy, saying she'd heard about my mental health struggles and how they were affecting my judgment regarding my parents. I was confused until she explained that my mom had told their entire church group I was suffering from postpartum depression and pregnancy-related anxiety that was making me paranoid and keeping my family away. I was furious. Not only had they violated my privacy and boundaries repeatedly, but now they were spreading lies about my mental health to gain sympathy and possibly undermine my credibility. That evening, Nathan and I consulted a lawyer. The lawyer advised us that while my parents' behavior was concerning, it didn't yet rise to the level where a restraining order would definitely be granted. However, he helped us draft a cease and desist letter that formally documented our request for no contact. We sent the letter by certified mail to ensure they received it. The letter clearly stated that any further contact with us, Lily, Nathan's workplace, or Lily's school would result in legal action. We also specified that they were not to discuss us with extended family or acquaintances. 3 days of blessed silence followed the letter. Then yesterday, we received a response, not from my parents, but from a lawyer they'd hired. The letter stated that while they respected our wishes for now, they were exploring their legal rights as grandparents and believed they had grounds for court-ordered visitation based on having established a relationship with Lily before the arrangement. This was a complete fabrication. They had never met Lily, not once in her 6 years. Nathan immediately called our lawyer, who assured us that in our state, grandparents' rights cases are very difficult to win, especially with no pre-existing relationship. He advised us to gather evidence of their absence from Lily's life. The returned mail from birth announcements, their lack of response to photos and updates over the years, and any other documentation showing they had chosen not to be involved until now. We spent yesterday evening going through old emails, photo albums, and social media posts, creating a timeline of Lily's life and their complete absence from it. I found myself looking at photos of Lily's first Christmas, her first birthday, her first day of preschool, all celebrations they had chosen to miss. The lawyer is confident we have nothing to worry about legally, but the emotional toll is exhausting. I'm 5 months pregnant now, and my doctor has expressed concern about my blood pressure. Nathan is worried too, suggesting we consider moving to a different neighborhood or even a different town to avoid these accidental encounters. For now, we're documenting everything and focusing on keeping our daily routine as normal as possible for Lily's sake. She knows something is wrong but doesn't understand what. She asked why we left her school play so quickly and why Daddy seems angry on the phone lately. We've kept our explanations age-appropriate, simply saying that some grown-ups aren't respecting our family's rules right now, and we're dealing with it. Nathan's parents have been incredible through all this, taking Lily for sleepovers when we have meetings with the lawyer and providing a sense of normalcy for her. This situation has made me even more grateful for their unwavering support over the years. I'll update again when there are significant developments. Update 3. This will be my final update on this situation. A lot has happened in the past 3 months, and I'm writing this from our new home in a different city, 120 miles from where we used to live. After my last update, things escalated even further. Despite the cease and desist letter and our lawyer's response to their legal threats, my parents continued their campaign to force their way into our lives. They seemed to take our legal response as a challenge rather than a warning. The breaking point came when Lily's teacher called me at work, alarmed because someone claiming to be Lily's grandmother had tried to pick her up from school. My mom had shown the office staff old family photos of me as a child, claiming they proved her relationship. Thankfully, the school followed protocol and called me immediately. When confronted, my mom caused another scene, resulting in the school having to call security. That same evening, Eric showed up at our house again. This time, Nathan was home. Eric pushed his way inside when I opened the door, nearly knocking me over. Nathan immediately intervened, placing himself between Eric and me. Eric was shouting about the legal letter, saying we were tearing the family apart and being cruel to our parents. When Nathan firmly asked him to leave, Eric took a swing at him. Nathan defended himself, and the situation quickly escalated into a physical altercation. Lily, who had been in her room, came out to see what was happening and witnessed part of the fight. Seeing her uncle and father fighting traumatized her. She burst into tears, and I rushed her back to her room while calling 911. By the time police arrived, Nathan had managed to get Eric outside, but both had minor injuries. We filed a police report and were finally granted an emergency restraining order against Eric. The officer who responded suggested we might want to file for orders against my parents as well, given the escalating pattern of behavior. We followed that advice, and temporary orders were issued until a hearing could be scheduled. During this time, Nathan's company offered him a transfer to their office in a city 2 hours away. We hadn't considered moving that far, but with everything that had happened, it suddenly seemed like our best option. The restraining orders would help in the short term, but living in the same small community meant continued risk of accidental encounters. We made the decision to move quickly and quietly. Nathan accepted the transfer, and we found a house to rent in the new city. We told no one outside of Nathan's parents and my most trusted aunt about our plans. Within 3 weeks, we had packed our essential belongings and moved. Nathan's parents helped with the logistics while keeping our secret. My Aunt Jenny, whom I trust completely, agreed to handle the sale of our house through her husband's real estate company. We left forwarding information only with her, the post office, and essential services. We enrolled Lily in a new school and found a new obstetrician for the remainder of my pregnancy. The move was hard on Lily at first. She missed her friends and her old school, but children are remarkably adaptable. She's made new friends in our neighborhood and is enjoying her new school. We've been honest with her about why we moved, explaining in age-appropriate terms that sometimes grown-ups don't respect boundaries, and we needed to create space to keep our family safe and happy. 2 weeks after our move, the court hearing for the permanent restraining orders took place. We traveled back for it, leaving Lily with Nathan's parents. The judge granted permanent orders against both Eric and my parents based on the documented pattern of escalating behavior, the police report from the physical altercation, and the school incidents. The orders prohibit them from contacting us through any means or coming within 500 feet of any of us for 1 year, after which we can apply for renewal if needed. Since the move and the restraining orders, we've had no contact from my parents or Eric. My Aunt Jenny reports that they've been telling family members we ran away to punish them and are keeping Lily from her real family. Some relatives believe them, but those who matter know the truth. Our new home is smaller than our old one, but it feels safer. Nathan's commute is shorter, and I found a part-time teaching position at a school near our house that will start after my maternity leave. Our son, we found out we're having a boy, is due in 6 weeks, and this time, my pregnancy has been remarkably peaceful, despite the upheaval of the move. Nathan's parents visit regularly, making the 2-hour drive every other weekend. They've been helping us prepare the nursery and spending quality time with Lily. My Aunt Jenny and 2 of my cousins have also visited, bringing housewarming gifts and positive energy to our new space. Sometimes I think about what might have been if my parents had truly changed, if they had respected my boundaries and been willing to rebuild trust slowly. But their actions showed their true priorities, controlling the narrative and maintaining their authority rather than healing the relationship. I don't know what the future holds regarding my parents and brother. Perhaps someday, years from now, genuine reconciliation might be possible if they do the hard work of changing. But I'm not counting on it, and I'm no longer waiting for it. My focus is where it should be, on Nathan, Lily, our coming son, and the life we're building together. Thank you to everyone who read my story and offered advice along the way. Your support helped me stand firm in my boundaries and prioritize my family's well-being. This chapter of our lives is closing, and a new, hopefully quieter one is beginning. Let's move on to another story. I decided not to pay for my sister's wedding, and 2 months later, she surprised me by turning my entire family against me. But then, her fiancé revealed the shocking truth about her secret double life. My older sister Kelly and I, being 6 years apart, always had a complicated dynamic from the very beginning of our lives. Our parents, both high-flying lawyers, were rarely present at home, leaving Kelly and me to largely navigate our childhood independently. Kelly, the older sibling, naturally assumed a caretaker role, which initially felt like a blessing as she ensured I was fed, helped with homework, and offered comfort when our parents were absent. However, as time progressed, Kelly's role transitioned from a supportive sister to an increasingly controlling figure in my life. I vividly recall an incident when I was 10 and she was 16. Kelly, disapproving of my new friend Sarah, actively sabotaged our budding friendship. She intercepted notes and deleted Sarah's number from my phone, dismissing my protest with the explanation that she was just looking out for me. This controlling pattern continued throughout my teenage years, extending to my clothing choices, extracurricular activities, and even my desired career path, as she insisted I pursue law despite my passion for art and design. The summer before high school, I was forced to forgo a prestigious art camp for a miserable internship at a law firm, all to Kelly's satisfaction. Despite the inherent tension, I still admired Kelly's intelligence and ambition, which led me to attend her alma mater at her urging. The promise of her guidance through college, however, quickly dissolved into a living nightmare. Our shared apartment became her domain, governed by strict rules reminiscent of our childhood, complete with curfews and constant monitoring of my social life and studies. Financially, Kelly, in her first job out of college, constantly borrowed money from me, often without asking, treating my student loan and part-time earnings as a shared resource. The situation reached its breaking point during my junior year when I met Jake, a fellow graphic design student who encouraged my passions and respected my decisions. Kelly, however, vehemently disapproved, making snide remarks about him and even intentionally damaging a joint project. When Jake proposed after graduation, Kelly erupted in a fit of rage, accusing him of trying to trap me and demanding I not throw away my future for some guy. This outburst finally spurred me to confront her, leading to a heated argument where years of suppressed frustration poured out. I asserted my independence, declaring my relationship with Jake was none of her concern, and swiftly moved out of our shared apartment. The distance allowed me to recognize the toxicity of our relationship, prompting me to seek therapy to process years of manipulation. In the ensuing years, my relationship with Kelly remained strained. I found success in marketing, while she struggled, frequently changing jobs and hinting for financial assistance, always reminding me of her past sacrifices. Last month, Kelly announced her engagement to Tom, surprising me given her previous stance on marriage, but I extended my well wishes. A week later, she called, outlining her dream wedding, and then, with astonishing audacity, requested a $15,000 contribution from me, knowing Jake and I were saving for a house. Her manipulative tactics quickly resurfaced, reminding me of her perceived sacrifices and my supposed duty as her sister. At that moment, years of pent-up anger erupted as I unequivocally refused to contribute to her wedding, highlighting her past financial and emotional exploitation. I recounted specific instances of her taking advantage, from borrowing my summer job earnings for a designer bag to belittling my career choices and attempting to sabotage my relationship with Jake. I firmly stated that her past sacrifices were her choice and did not entitle her to my money or compliance as an adult. Kelly reacted with fury, labeling me selfish and ungrateful, accusing me of abandonment and threatening to turn our family against me. This was the final straw. I told her I would not contribute a cent and was done with her manipulation, demanding no further contact unless she was prepared to apologize and change. For 3 weeks, Kelly remained silent, but my phone was bombarded with calls and messages from relatives, fueled by Kelly's narrative that I was refusing to help her out of jealousy. Despite the mounting family pressure to reconcile, I stood firm in my decision, though I couldn't help but question if I was in the wrong for cutting her off. About a month after my initial post, the situation with Kelly dramatically escalated. Our parents intervened, calling a family meeting at our childhood home, which I reluctantly attended, hoping to finally explain my perspective. To my dismay, Aunt Linda and Uncle Bob were also present, ostensibly as mediators, but I immediately felt ambushed, knowing their history of favoring Kelly. As the meeting began, Mom asked us to explain our sides. I calmly recounted Kelly's demand for wedding money, her threats, and years of manipulation, financial exploitation, and the emotional toll it took on me, citing specific incidents like the art camp I wasn't allowed to attend and the friends Kelly had driven away. I explained how her controlling behavior continued into adulthood, culminating in her demand for wedding funds. Kelly, however, presented a completely different narrative, painting herself as a selfless older sister who sacrificed her youth to raise an ungrateful sibling. She twisted childhood incidents, portraying herself as protecting me from mistakes and reframing her control over my friendships as looking out for my best interests. She even suggested Jake had turned me against my family, poisoning my mind with ideas of independence. As Kelly spoke, our parents, Aunt Linda and Uncle Bob, visibly softened, nodding in agreement with her words, while my attempts to point out inconsistencies were dismissed as overly emotional. The meeting dragged on for hours, with Kelly's carefully crafted anecdotes and tears swaying my family against me. The final blow came when our parents proposed I plan and pay for Kelly's bridal shower and bachelorette party as a gesture of goodwill to mend our relationship. Stunned by their complete disregard for my financial boundaries and understanding of Kelly's manipulation, I refused. This led to another round of accusations of selfishness, culminating in Kelly's tearful announcement that her dream of having her little sister as maid of honor would never come true, a masterful display of emotional manipulation that my family readily accepted. The meeting ended with me feeling betrayed and alone, as my family had clearly sided with Kelly, casting me as the villain. In the week that followed, the fallout was significant. Our parents barely spoke to me, and I was uninvited from several family events. Kelly, meanwhile, reveled in the sympathy, posting on social media about healing from family trauma, garnering hundreds of supportive comments from family members who now viewed her as a wronged saint. This situation forced me to reevaluate many relationships, as friends I thought I could count on sided with Kelly, swayed by her narrative. Despite the pressure and pain of being ostracized, I stood firm, recognizing the deeply dysfunctional family dynamics and Kelly's pervasive manipulation. Jake has been my unwavering support, helping me see that I'm not crazy for setting boundaries. We're now focusing on building our future together, away from the toxic influence of my family, and for the first time, I'm prioritizing myself, a daunting yet liberating experience. 2 months after my last update, things took an unexpected turn. 3 weeks ago, I received an unusual call from Tom, Kelly's fiancé, asking to meet for coffee. Despite my apprehension, curiosity prevailed, and we met at a discreet downtown cafe. Tom, visibly nervous, dropped a bombshell. He and Kelly had broken up, and the wedding was off. He then revealed a shocking truth about Kelly's secret double life, confirming my worst suspicions while unveiling new depths of her deception. Kelly had lied about her financial stability, claiming substantial savings and a well-paying job, when in reality she was deeply in debt and had been fired from her last 2 jobs for misusing company funds. The wedding planning exposed everything when Tom discovered she had opened several credit cards in his name without his knowledge, racking up tens of thousands in debt to fund her lavish lifestyle. When confronted, she attempted to guilt-trip him, claiming she only did it to give him the wedding he deserved. As Tom spoke, I felt a strange mix of vindication and sadness. His story perfectly aligned with the manipulative Kelly I knew, but it also revealed a level of desperation I hadn't fully grasped. Tom apologized, acknowledging he had believed Kelly's lies about me being selfish and jealous, and now understood the pattern of manipulation I had been trying to escape. After he left, I sat in the cafe, processing the anger at Kelly's deception, but also a worrying concern for her. A few days later, Kelly, unable to keep the breakup a secret, told our parents that Tom had left her, but her version of events was predictably different. Tom was controlling and abusive, leaving her when she stood up to him, and had lied about her using his credit cards to turn people against her. She painted herself as the victim of a cruel man who had taken advantage of her trust and generosity. I was bombarded with calls and messages from family members expressing sympathy for Kelly and anger towards Tom, some even suggesting I reconsider helping with wedding costs so Kelly could start over. I was torn. Part of me wanted to expose Kelly's lies with the concrete evidence I now had from Tom, finally clearing my name and showing my family her true nature. But another part knew that confronting her would only lead to more drama and pain, as Kelly would undoubtedly twist it against me, perhaps accusing me of colluding with her abusive ex. Ultimately, I decided to stay out of it. When asked about the situation, I simply expressed sorrow that things didn't work out, opting for the healthiest choice for my own well-being. This reinforced my decision to distance myself from family drama. Kelly's manipulation runs deep, and it's not my responsibility to fix it or make others see the truth. I'm focusing on my own life and happiness. Jake and I have put an offer on a modest 3-bedroom house in a quiet neighborhood, and we're excited about this new chapter. Packing up our apartment, I've come across old photos and mementos from my life with Kelly, a bittersweet experience. I'm also considering starting therapy again to work through lingering issues from our relationship, as the revelations about her lies to Tom have brought up many old feelings and memories. For now, I'm taking it one day at a time, learning to set boundaries not just with Kelly, but in all my relationships. It's not easy, and there are days I second-guess my decisions, but overall, I feel like I'm on the right path. 6 weeks after my last update, I have surprising news. Last week, Kelly unexpectedly visited me at my workplace, looking terrible, dark circles under her eyes, a defeated expression I'd never seen, and wrinkled, mismatched clothes. Despite my reservations, I agreed to have lunch with her. As we sat down at a small deli, I braced myself for accusations or manipulation, but what followed caught me completely off guard. Kelly broke down, not in her usual theatrical way, but in a raw, vulnerable manner. She confessed her life had spiraled out of control after Tom left her. She'd lost her job, was facing eviction, and admitted lying about Tom being abusive. She couldn't keep up with the lies anymore. Between sobs, Kelly confessed she had hit rock bottom and realized she needed to change. She had started therapy and was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, attending group sessions and on medication. As she spoke, I found myself remembering moments from our childhood, Kelly comforting me, teaching me to ride a bike, defending me from bullies. For the first time in years, I saw glimpses of the sister she once was, not the manipulator she'd become. What surprised me most was her sincere apology for her past behavior. She acknowledged how she'd manipulated and hurt me, and understood why I had cut her off, asking only for a chance to make amends over time. I was skeptical at first, given our history, but as we talked, I saw genuine remorse and a desire for change in her eyes. We spoke for hours, confronting painful memories and hard truths. Kelly admitted to many things: her jealousy of my relationship with Jake, her resentment of my career success, and her desperate attempts to control my life. She also shared more about her diagnosis, helping me understand some of her behavior without excusing it. I told Kelly that while I appreciated her apology, rebuilding our relationship would take time and effort on her part. I made it clear I wasn't ready to fully let her back into my life, but I was willing to take small steps if she continued to work on herself. Since that lunch, Kelly has respected my boundaries, sending short, respectful texts about her therapy progress without pushing for more contact than I'm comfortable with. It's a small thing, but it gives me hope that real change might be possible. Last week, she sent me a photo of a painting she'd done in art therapy. 2 little girls holding hands, clearly us. The gesture touched me more than I expected. I'm still proceeding with caution, and Jake and I are maintaining firm boundaries, but for the first time in a long while, I feel cautiously optimistic about the possibility of a healthier relationship with my sister in the future. This experience has taught me a lot about the complexity of family dynamics and the possibility of change. While I'm not forgetting the past, I'm cautiously open to a different future. Only time will tell how things unfold, but for now, I'm taking it one day at a time.